Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Matt Morris. We are live right now on YouTube, on Twitch, as well as on Rumble at Matt Morris TV. Ladies and gentlemen, boy, howdy do we have a lot to talk about today. First off, we have some absolutely massive updates coming out of the Middle East. Now, folks, I kid you not when I say this, but the Iranian President Pezeshkian is his name, has just publicly stated, like 30 minutes ago, this is hot off the press, that guess what? He is actually ready to surrender and for the war to come to an end if he can get some security guarantees from the United States of America. We are going to break down all of that. Massive updates. We also have some massive updates coming out of the United States Supreme Court that I think all of you are going to appreciate. And finally, President Trump today, earlier this morning, has just absolutely blasted NATO, all of our allies over in Europe, putting our allies in Europe on notice. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be breaking all of this news down today. Really massive, very eventful broadcast. Let's get right into it. But ladies and gentlemen, first off, I want to make a very simple request. If you're new to the show, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. We have a lot to talk about today. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we have this morning launched the official Morris Report Facebook page. Our Twitter page, Morris Report, has just hit 10,000 followers. Today, we're launching a Morris Report Facebook page. If you would do me a favor and go, make sure to like and follow and subscribe to that Facebook page. It's called the Morris Report. That would really help a lot. I really appreciate that. But with that out of the way, let's get right into the show. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot to talk about today. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, 8-1 Supreme Court ruling, massive victory for us, America First Americans, today. Justin, it's official. The Supreme Court this morning has officially ruled against the Colorado State Democrats' law that banned talk therapy for children identifying as transgender. So, ladies and gentlemen, I kid you not, there was a law in Colorado State. If a child who, I don't know, maybe they got their brain twisted by some counselor or some teacher or some crazy left-wing parent, they went to a counselor. The counselor was actually in Colorado legally forbidden from saying, you know what, hey, listen, little boy, maybe you're just a boy. Maybe you're not actually a little girl. Maybe you're just a boy because you're a boy. They were forbidden legally from doing that. It's called talk therapy, to try to talk them through this, meaning the only option they had was to prescribe medication and hormones and surgeries to these children. The Supreme Court got involved today and said, this is ridiculous. You can't outlaw allowing therapists to try to talk kids that think they're trans out of being trans. That's ridiculous. So the Supreme Court issued a bombshell 8-1 ruling protecting free speech and shutting down all this psychotic behavior.
Ruling against a Colorado law banning so-called conversion therapy for LGBTQ children. Shannon Bream watching this and getting the ruling now. What was decided? Good morning to you, Shannon.
Hey, Bill, good to see you. So a therapist out there in Colorado challenged this law when it was passed, saying, I need to be able to counsel clients for whatever services they're seeking. Yeah. So the court looked at this, finally decided 8-1 in her favor, striking down that law in Colorado. I want to read you part of what they said. They said it's censoring speech based on viewpoint, specific things. It says the First Amendment stands as a shield against any effort to enforce orthodoxy in thought or speech in this country. It goes on to say, even if you have good intentions in this law, if you suppress speech based on a particular viewpoint, it just can't stand up. I mean, 8-1, there was only one dissenter here. It was Justice Jackson. She has said that this ruling is potentially catastrophic. She says the majority finds at bottom that Colorado likely cannot legislate to protect the children of its state if by doing so it happens to keep state licensed healthcare providers from saying what they want to minors. She goes on to say it will ultimately risk grave harm to Americans' health and well-being. She says you should be able to regulate the speech of somebody who's providing care to minors. 8-1, majority of the court did not think so, Bill.
Yeah. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, an 8-1 absolutely no-brainer Supreme Court ruling. I wonder who the one idiotic Supreme Court justice, oh, that's who. Oh, that's who, of course. It was Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'm sorry, who is a DEI hire. You know that Joe Biden on the campaign trail, you know what he said? He said, if you vote for me, I will appoint the first black woman onto the Supreme Court. That was one of his campaign promises. Black women make up 6%, maybe 7% of the U.S. population. This is literally racism. This is DEI, right? Joe Biden on the campaign trail said, if you vote for me, if I become president, I will ignore 97% of the U.S., 93% of the U.S. population. Instead, I'll pick someone from the 7%. If you're white, not going to pick you. If you're Asian, not going to pick you. If you're a black man, not going to pick you. I'm going to pick a black woman. And that is how she got her job. That was one of his campaign trail promises. It's racism. It's DEI. She's the first DEI Supreme Court justice. She can't tell the difference between a man and a woman. And now she's ruling in the extreme minority. Just totally absurd. So that's a massive victory for us today. Big deal today. Now, we have another big deal looming on the horizon coming out of the Supreme Court. Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court is going to be taking a look at the merits of birthright citizenship. It's official. President Trump's Department of Justice is going to argue directly in front of the Supreme Court justices tomorrow, by the way. This starts off tomorrow, that they should strike down birthright citizenship for the children of illegal aliens. Good. Should they? Yes or no in the audience? Yes. This is massive for our republic. Let's take a look at the report here.
This term of President Trump's aggressive immigration crackdown striking directly at the U.S. Constitution and a fundamental question, just who is an American citizen? Moments after being sworn in for a second time, President Trump signed an executive order ending birthright citizenship, the practice of giving automatic citizenship to any child born on U.S. soil, regardless of the immigration status of mom and dad. Trump wants to change that, make it tougher to get automatic American citizenship. The DOJ will make arguments tomorrow before the justices at issue, specifically the part of the 14th Amendment written after the Civil War, which states all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Right there. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. It's not enough just to be born here. You need to be subject to the jurisdiction of the... Are the children of illegal aliens, are illegal aliens themselves subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. government in the same way that we are as citizens? Of course not. This is the axiom of the argument right here.
Of are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. It was written to give children of former slaves a quick path to citizenship after the Civil War.
Yep.
It may sound straightforward, but there is that part that Professor Turley mentioned, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, end quote. And the DOJ is arguing that children born to parents that are in the country illegally or visiting temporarily, therefore are not American citizens. Ultimately, that phrase is very important to this case, even though every lower court that has looked at the issue has rejected it. This comes during a midterm election year. Certainly implications in November and far beyond. We expect a ruling from the justices by the beginning of July.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's just think about this real quick. The question is, are illegal aliens and their children under the jurisdiction of the federal government and the state government in which they're born in the same way that we U.S. citizens are? That's the question. The answer is no, obviously no. There's a different set of rules for them as non-citizens, as illegal invaders of the country, than the rules that we have for us. There's a different level of jurisdiction. So, for instance, what's an example? Can an illegal alien buy a firearm in the United States in accordance with the U.S. Second Amendment? No, they can't. You can't, just anybody in the country can't sneak in here and buy a gun. You can't do that. Yes, we have a Second Amendment. We can buy guns in most states. However, they cannot. Can an illegal alien who snuck in our country, here's a better example. Can an illegal alien vote in our elections legally? No, of course not. They're under a different jurisdiction. There's a different set of rules and regulations. We can do certain things they can't. Right now, of course, in some of the blue states, they have been voting. And I wish they weren't. But anyway, in principle, no, they can't. So there's a different set of rules and jurisdictions therein. And this is the focal point of President Trump's argument of President Trump's legal team. They're going to be speaking in front of the Supreme Court tomorrow. I think they've got a shot. We've got more information coming out here. Take a look at this.
The U.S. Supreme Court is set to hear arguments tomorrow in a major case on birthright citizenship. Some Trump cabinet members are expected to be in the courtroom. The justices will weigh whether people born in this country to parents who are here illegally should be granted citizenship. Constitutional law attorney Jonathan Turley says it's all about the nitty-gritty when it comes to our founding fathers' wording.
When the 14th Amendment was drafted, some of the drafters said explicitly that it does not allow for birthright citizenship. The problem are these 6 words, this clause, put in the middle of an otherwise clear sentence. But the key is that those words were not in that sentence in the original draft. They were intentionally inserted. So you can't just treat them as superfluous. They were inserted for a reason. And I think that there are compelling arguments on both sides here.
Now, what she's going to say is President Trump posted this on Truth Social yesterday afternoon. He says, and I quote, birthright citizenship is not about rich people from China or the rest of the world who want their children and hundreds of thousands more for pay to ridiculously become citizens of the United States of America. There's an entire, folks, there's a multi-billion dollar birth tourism industry where pregnant women from all over the world come to the U.S., they pop out a baby, and magically their baby has U.S. citizenship. That baby of this perhaps illegal alien or birth tourist from Uganda, God knows where, China. Guess what? That baby is just as much of an American as you or me. My family's been here since 1635. My family built this country. I'm sure some of you are in the same position. That baby of the CCP party loyalist who snuck on over here and popped out a baby, guess what? That baby's just as much of an American as I am or as you are. This is absurd. This is absurd. President Trump says, this amendment was originally about the babies of slaves, recently freed slaves following the conclusion of the Civil War. We are the only country in the world that dignifies this subject with even a discussion. Look at the dates of this long ago legislation, the exact end of the Civil War. The world is getting rich selling citizenship to our country while at the same time laughing at how stupid our U.S. court system has become. Tariffs. Quote, dumb judges and justices will never a great country make. That's true. That is true. And he's absolutely right. The 14th Amendment, this is one of these Reconstruction era amendments. Okay, the country was ripped apart during the Civil War. We got to put it back together. A component of that as well, now we have all these recently freed slaves. That was one of the big deals of the Civil War. What do we do with the slaves? Well, now they've earned their freedom. The Civil War is over. Are they citizens? Are they not? What do we do here? Can they vote? Do they have rights? Are they, subject to the same jurisdiction of the Constitution as we are? What's up? And so that is the circumstances under which the 14th Amendment was created. President Trump, he knows his history. That's absolutely true. Now we have a legal argument here. John Eastman, take a look at this.
Here as well and reside in a state. That means temporary visitors and certainly those who are here illegally are not covered by the automatic citizenship of the Citizenship Clause. And that was the way we understood it for about a century. And it kind of gradually, beginning in the 1950s or 60s, we moved away from that position. But President Trump's executive order restores the original meaning of the Citizenship Clause. Yeah. If you're here illegally, then you're not subject to the complete jurisdiction. You're not part of our political community. If you're here just temporarily, you're here by our grace. You have not joined our political community. You're a visitor. Yep. And that's what the original meaning meant, and that's what the original court decisions were. That's what the original leading treatise writers of the 1870s said. That's what the secretaries of state said in the 1880s. So it's only more recently that we've adopted this more radical view that anybody born here, no matter the circumstances, are citizens.
I have perhaps a radical notion here, ladies and gentlemen. To me, this is my notion. I don't really believe in the American magic soil theory. Just because you're an immigrant and you have set foot on American soil, or just because you were born on American soil to perhaps CCP party loyalists or illegal alien cartel gang members, that does not necessarily make you an American. An American, I would even go so far as to say somebody could be born on the moon and be more American than somebody who was born on U.S. soil. Do you agree with that? Let's say you take your average American man and American woman. Your family's been here for 400 years. Your family, your relatives, your ancestors fought in the Revolutionary War. You fought in the Civil War. You fought in every great war of this country. You built this country. You pioneered on the damn Oregon Trail. You're settlers. You're colonists. Okay, they got together, and then they were astronauts. They flew to the moon. They popped out a baby. That baby, born to actual red, white, and blue Americans, although that baby, American baby, was born on the moon, as far as I'm concerned, is more American than a baby who was born on U.S. soil to illegal alien CCP gang member parents. Doesn't matter where you're born. It's a lineage. It's a history. That's what it is. That's my opinion. That's my humble opinion. Now, that is to say, I disavow this concept of just magic American soil. It's the people that made this country great. It's the people. Now, let's move on because, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of people, we've got massive updates coming out of the Middle East. And right now, we're going to break it down. Now, first off, I want to say, if you're new to the show, do me a favor, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe on Rumble and on Twitch and on YouTube. Before you forget about it, do me a favor, hit that like button. It really does help a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, massive updates coming out of the Middle East, and I think some of this stuff you are going to like. Like we said, the Iranian regime is, well, the president of Iran says he wants the war to end. He's ready to surrender if he can get some security guarantees. Let's break it all down. First off, ladies and gentlemen, over the last 4 weeks, at least 4,770 members of the IRGC, the Basij, which is a part of the IRGC, and Iranian police have been killed since the start of the war in attacks by Israel and the United States of America. Iran International, one of the leading outlets, has learned. Their sources also said that over, let's call it 21,000 others in the IRGC have also been injured, taken out of combat. Wow. Okay, so if I remember correctly here, okay, prior to this conflict breaking out 4 weeks ago, about a month ago now, it was approximated that there were 200,000 members of the IRGC. 5,000 have been killed, and another 21,000 have been injured, wounded, taken out of combat. So perhaps 10, 11, 12, 13%, something like this. If you're a mathematician, correct me. Something like that. Members of the IRGC have been taken out of combat here. That's a big deal in just 4 weeks. Okay, and this probably explains why they're trying to recruit child soldiers. They've dropped the age of enlistment down to 12 years old. This is probably why they're recruiting 12-year-olds now. We talked about that yesterday. We also have another report coming out today. A leaked internal directive from the IRGC's Missile Command appears to show that the use of civilian locations to conceal, support, and in some cases facilitate missile launch operations is not ad hoc but structured. This is their military strategy. Folks, to be clear, the IRGC, they have a premeditated plan. It's part of their military strategy to launch missiles and drones from civilian locations. Could be civilian apartment complexes, could be schools, could be hospitals. And of course, I would say that this falls under the category of terroristic activity, shielding your missile and drone launch sites behind civilians, such that if the U.S. or Israel tries to take them out, we risk blowing up schools, hospitals, buildings, apartment buildings, etc. Yep, that sounds like something that they would do. In fact, we've seen them doing that. We have literally seen them doing that. Now, President Trump, ladies and gentlemen, posted a very curious video late last night. Who here has seen this? Last night, a series of airstrikes were carried out by the United States military. We hit something big. This might be the biggest hit of the last 4 weeks. We blew up something real big, and I'm going to show you what that looks like here. Right now, rumors are swirling. I mean, actually, we have the confirmation, to be totally honest. And we have the confirmation. We got it from Pete Hegseth this morning. We hit the Iranian regime's #1 ballistic missile storage facility in ballistic missile launch sites. They call it the Missile City. Missile City. We blew it up last night. Take a look at this. There's no audio on this one, but I'll show you what it looks like. Wow. And this is in Isfahan, is where this is in Iran. Allegedly, we used a series, not one, but a series of 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs blowing deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this complex, and we struck gold. Seems to be the case. You can see early on, wow. So look at that little, you see a never-ending series of secondary explosions. So the bunker buster goes in, it goes in, it goes in. Bunker buster after bunker buster burrowing deeper into that bunker complex. And then it strikes gold. It actually starts blowing up the ballistic missiles, the explosive munitions inside the bunker. And then you see more explosions popping out the top. And you can see that. Boom. Another one. Boom. So these are just Iranian just popping off like it's 4th of July. That is crazy. So President Trump, he posted the footage of this on Truth Social. Yeah, you had to do a little bit of, there's more of them popping off. Look at that. We call these secondaries. And there is just more and more secondary detonations in there, explosions. And so everybody, I saw this hit the timeline last night. Everybody's saying, man, what did we hit? What is this? Well, we got the confirmation. Missile City, Isfahan strike recap brought to us by Matt Tardio. He's on YouTube. The strike last night in Isfahan didn't just take out Iranian munition storage locations, it took out a major ballistic missile launch site that stretched almost 3 miles and consisted of hundreds of firing positions. This is the missile farm, the missile city, whatever you want to call it. You can bet your sweet behind burrowed deep in these hills, underground bunker complex. What's up there on the surface, though? Ah, well, what do we have here? Ladies and gentlemen, this bunker, this elaborate bunker complex popping out the top, littering the landscape, are ballistic missile launch opening sites. So they can pop out a missile over here, pop out a missile over there, pop out a missile here, missile there, missile everywhere. It's the Missile City. It's what they call another one. Wow, just to put the sheer scope of this in front of your eyes, every single one of these is a ballistic missile launch location. And allegedly, we just bombed the living heck out of this place last night, not only destroying the surface of this, on a surface level, but also dropping bunker busters and blow. We must have hit some munition storage facility deep underground. With all those secondary explosions we saw, there's more of them. Why? And they're just everywhere. And so you can, underneath all of these spots on the ground here, underground bunker tunnels, connecting all of them. Launch tubes, hatches, opening up, all of it. You know how it is. I think that was our last photo there. Yep, and we just, once again, what happened there? This is what happened there. Blowing up. Looks like a Hollywood movie. Good God. And so Trump, of course, maybe a little bit braggadociously so he posted this on True Social last night saying, hey, we got it. Now, we also had a press conference featuring Secretary of War Pete Hegseth this morning. I believe also General Kane. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth demands Iran's new regime make a deal or face the United States fury, fire and fury. We've got a lot of Hegseth clips. Let's take a look at some of these.
Strikes alone, in addition to the pre-planned targets. The video the president posted last night of Esfahan, an ammo depot struck by U.S. bombers. You see, you don't get to see many of those videos because, as a reminder, Iran has still shut off the internet.
Yep.
To 99.9% of its population.
Yep.
But if Iran is wise, they will cut a deal. President Trump doesn't bluff and he does not back down. You can ask Khomeini about that. The new Iranian regime should know that by now. This new regime, because regime change has occurred, should be wiser than the last. President Trump will make a deal. He is willing. And the terms of the deal are known to them. If Iran is not willing, then the United States War Department will continue with even more intensity.
Okay, now, I hate to keep on teasing you guys here. 30 minutes before I went live for today's show, we got a statement from the president of Iran. Pezeshkian is his name. He says he's ready to surrender. He wants the war to come to an end, so long as he can get security guarantees at the end of this conflict. Okay? And we're working our way there. But people coming in, I know it's a big, exciting day. That's massive news. Hot off the press. We're getting there, but there's some other stuff we've got to get through first. Bear with me, folks. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth confirms that many more vessels are surging through the Strait of Hormuz. The Hormuz is getting reopened. Well, I'll be damned.
Appreciate both questions. On the Strait of Hormuz, there are many more vessels flowing through today than there were, as the president has arranged. The president's been clear to Iran, open it for business, or we have options, and we certainly do. And when you look at what the chairman laid out with the Navy industrial base, with coastal cruise missiles, with UAVs, with counter mine capabilities, we've been focused from the beginning on attriting and defeating those capabilities and limiting their options. There's lots we're doing as well, some of which is known, some of which is not known, to set the conditions. And I think the president was clear this morning in his truth that there are countries around the world who ought to be prepared to step up. Appreciate it.
And we are going to talk a lot about some of those countries, our NATO allies, in the second half of today's broadcast. We're going to break that down. Is he correct, though? Are more vessels actually navigating through the Hormuz? Folks, here's a snapshot of maritime traffic through the Hormuz over the last 24 hours. We'll take a look at this. This is hyper sped up. And wow, yeah, we are seeing this. Yes, they are. And the crazy thing about this is that not only are these vessels traversing the Hormuz now at an ever increasing rate, but also they're doing it, generally speaking, with their transponders flipped on. We've known that vessels have been traversing the Hormuz frequently with their transponders flipped off, so you can't publicly track them, trying to sort of conceal their location. But now at an increasing rate, we're seeing more and more. It's not all the way. It's not 100% traffic yet, but that rate is picking up. And this is totally in accordance with what we've been hearing from President Trump, where Trump has been saying, yeah, listen, negotiations with the Iranian regime are ongoing. And now on 2 occasions over the last 4-5 days, we've gotten sort of a gift from the Iranian regime, a gift of sorts. That's how he puts it. That gift is that they are increasingly letting more tanker vessels go through. First it was 8, then it was 10, and then they greenlit another 20. And so now with the numbers up to 30 in total, that they've said, all right, wave them through. As a gesture of good faith, we want this to simmer down. Negotiations are ongoing. But also what's more, it is proven the fact that these vessels are getting greenlit and passage is being allowed, it proves that whoever the Trump administration is negotiating with is actually in a position of power inside of Iran to pick up a phone and say, hey, listen, IRGC guys along the coast of the Hormuz, we got 10 ships. We got 10 ships coming through. Let them through. We got another 20. Stand down. Let them through. So whoever we're talking to actually is in power. They can pick up that phone and send them through. Okay, because you don't want to negotiate with somebody that can't even do anything, can't even issue an order. Well, okay, we're talking to somebody. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, more from Pete Hegseth. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, he announces that there is nothing that Russia or China could do or have done in Iran that jeopardizes America's mission.
They're on. As far as Russia and China, we know exactly what they're doing, what they are or are not doing. We don't have to air publicly what all of that is, but where necessary, we're addressing it, we're mitigating it, or we're confronting it head on. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
It's not worried about it. Yep, China and Russia, we know that they're doing something. They're relaying intelligence, giving coordinates, whatever, satellite imagery. Yeah, sure. We're countering it. We're not that worried about it. This echoes something that President Trump said maybe 3 weeks ago now, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, the first half of this conflict. We're now 4 weeks in. This was aboard Air Force One. A member of the media asked President Trump, said, hey, there are initial reports that the Russians are giving intelligence to the Iranian regime. What do you have to say about that? He said, well, I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but it doesn't really matter. We're not that concerned about it because the Iranian regime, even if they are receiving intelligence from Russia or China, they're not able to put it to good use. You can give somebody intelligence, but if they can't make use of it, in this case, carry out a targeted ballistic missile strike or a drone strike, whatever, then it kind of doesn't matter. You can have all the intelligence you want, but if you can't actually make use of it, then who cares? And that's something he said 2.5 weeks ago, Trump did. Now we're hearing kind of effectively the same thing from Hegseth. Yeah, maybe they're helping out, but kind of doesn't matter a whole lot. We are in control. That's the message we've been hearing. Now, we also hear the U.S. is discombobulating Iran, and President Trump would never rule out boots on the ground because advertising your plan is a bad strategy. I've seen a lot of people on social media. They're saying President Trump refuses to rule out boots on the ground. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. What type of commander-in-chief, what type of wartime leader? Keep in mind, this is a war. This is a conflict. President Trump himself has called this a war, so don't get mad at me. He said that. What type of wartime leader, tactician, military leader, tactician, commander-in-chief would you be if you said, all right, we're at war, and we're going to tell our enemy everything that we're not willing to do? All right, this is a struggle here, and we're going to broadcast publicly to our enemy everything that we're not. That doesn't make any sense. You leave everything on the table. Leave it on the table. And of course, I hope we do not have boots on the ground. At the same time, I think it would be strategically incompetent to rule them out. Let's hear what Pete Hegseth had to say about this. What does he say?
President Trump and boots on the ground. I don't understand why the base, which they have already, they understand, wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record of pursuing peace through strength, America first outcomes. What he's simply saying, and it's exactly true, and I've said from this podium too, we're not going to foreclose any option. You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground.
True.
Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are. So if we needed to, we could execute those options on behalf of the President of the United States and this department. Or maybe we don't have to use them at all. Maybe negotiations work, or maybe there's a different approach. But the point is to be unpredictable in that. Certainly not let anybody know what you're willing to do or not do. But if anybody has internalized the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan as the first one, President Trump, to call them out for what they are, he's not going to repeat those lessons. And I think I've been very clear about that from the podium.
There's a famous book. I've got it sitting on my bookshelf over there, in fact. It's called The Art of War. It's written by an old Chinese guy, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And in fact, we've got almost 3,000 years of wartime literature and strategy and planning. In the Iliad, written by Homer, 2,800 years ago, they talk wartime strategy. So we've got almost 3,000 years of how to effectively conduct a war, navigate a conflict. In not one piece of wartime literature, Sun Tzu's Art of War, the Iliad or otherwise, does it say, always tell your enemy every single thing you're going to do. And in a time of war, always tell your enemy exactly what you're willing to do and unwilling to do. No. In fact, it is the exact opposite. You guys know that. Remain mysterious, remain aloof, remain clandestine, remain unpredictable. Keep your enemy guessing. What are they going to do? What are they not going to do? I don't know. Every option is on the table. That's what we're talking about here. So all of these experts on Twitter, I don't know. They're so mad that President Trump is not telling them, who are you, some random guy on Twitter, exactly what his plan is. What do you think? What do you think is going on here? Okay. We've got a war to win here. And he's doing whatever it takes to make it happen. Okay. Now, Hegseth actually goes on to talk about this boots on the ground notion. Let's hear what else he has to say.
Might the soldiers and the Marines who have been deployed over to the Middle East serve in this conflict?
Well, just like the previous question, it's sort of military 101. Don't tell your enemy what you're willing to do or not do. And don't tell your enemy when you're willing to stop. Especially an enemy that likes to hide in bunkers and try to hoard their missiles and hope you'll wait you out. So that's not a question I'm going to answer or or the president has said definitively, we have our own goals and guidance and things military objectives that we're moving toward and things that we look at. And as he's articulated, he's said 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, it could be any particular number, but we would never reveal precisely what it is because our goal is to finish those objectives. And we're well on our way. And the chairman and I look at this every single day. It will be the president's determination and the president's determination alone when those objectives are complete and when it serves the interest of the American people to cut that deal, to make sure that Iran doesn't have a nuclear capability and ultimately that our objectives, our interests are advanced. I don't know if you.
Could you imagine? I mentioned the Iliad, I mentioned Homer. It's the oldest piece of Western literature, and maybe the best. Anyway, you're all familiar with the story of the Trojan horse. The walls of Troy were too high after 10 years of battle, of conflict on the plains in front of Troy. The Mycenaeans, they couldn't sack Troy. So they pretended to leave. They pretended to retreat. They packed up their boats and they retreated. Or so they wanted the Trojans to think. They left behind an offering, a gift, a tribute of peace. This big Trojan horse, this big horse. Could you imagine if the Mycenaeans had sent a letter to the Trojans saying, hey, listen, we're only pretending to retreat and we're going to give you this big horse, but secretly there's 13 of our top special force operators inside of the horse. We want you to bring it inside of the town behind the walls. So once you all party and go to sleep, you're all drunk and passed out at 2 a.m, they're going to pop out and open up the gates, at which point we're going to come flooding in and murder all of you. We're giving you a heads up. Could you imagine how dumb that would be? And so this is what Hegseth is saying, okay? Remain mysterious. It's called, these days we call it operational security. We call it operational security, okay? But you have all of these people on Twitter, I don't know, other YouTubers, other rumblers. They say, why isn't President Trump telling us every single detail of his plan? Operational security is what it is called, and it's really a tale as old as time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tidbit here, then we're really going to break this down. Every single major media outlet is reporting on this today. This is the biggest news of the morning. Breaking news. Iranian President Pezeshkian says Iran is ready to end the war with the U.S., but he wants guarantees. If you read more into this, he wants security guarantees. He wants to make sure that he himself will not be blown up. He doesn't want to get blown up. He also wants, broadly speaking, okay, if we surrender, if we meet all of these American demands, what are the demands again, real quick? No more ballistic missiles, no more suicide drones, no more nuclear enrichment, no more highly enriched weapons-grade uranium with which you can make a nuclear weapon. No more funding terror proxies across the region. No more blowing up civilian tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Open up the Hormuz. Blowing up civilians. Stop. Okay. Stop attacking every single country in the region. So if we meet your demands, America, we want security guarantees that you will not kill me, Pezeshkian, and also we want you to stop bombing Iran. Those are the guarantees he wants. Right now, I'm sure you might have noticed, stocks this morning are surging because it seems like this thing is coming to an end. Seems like we're right about there. Now, we're going to talk more about this, but first, there's something else I want to talk about because there is a lot more to talk about here. But first, we need to talk a little bit about NATO. Before we do, if you're new to the show, do me a favor, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to subscribe. It really does help a lot. It helps a lot. Folks, this morning we made a new community Facebook page called The Morris Report for 24/7 breaking news updates at all time. We've got The Morris Report on Twitter, on X. In fact, today we just hit 10,000 followers on X. The Morris Report. But now, as of this morning, we're also on Facebook. So do me a favor, if you are a Facebook user, we're launching the new page today. If you really could help, it would help a lot. Make sure to follow, like that page on Facebook as well as the page on Twitter. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about NATO. Let's get into it. This is one of the big topics of the day. Let me make sure I've got everything pulled up here. Okay, you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump has just gone absolutely scorched earth on NATO, publicly putting them on blast. And I'll tell you what, in the very near future, I think that this alliance is going to undergo some restructuring, to say the least. But now, before we get into what President Trump this morning said, putting NATO on blast, we need to go through some background information to really put everything into context here. Ladies and gentlemen, in just the last 24 hours, we have heard various things. Just in this morning, France, one of our NATO allies, reportedly denied use of its airspace to U.S. military flights. France is not allowing us to fly over its airspace. What's more, the U.S. has asked Poland, another one of our NATO allies, to send one of its Patriot missile batteries to the Middle East, but Poland says no. The defense minister of Poland says this: "Our Patriot batteries are used to protect Polish skies and NATO's eastern flank. We have no plans to relocate them anywhere." Who paid for those Patriot missile batteries? Who manufactured and created those Patriot missile batteries? We did. Yeah, that was us. Poland says no. Breaking news: Italy, late last night, has denied the United States permission to land its military aircraft at an airbase in Sicily before flying to the Middle East. So Italy has boxed us out also. President Trump issued a little short statement here. He says, "The country of France wouldn't let planes headed to Israel loaded up with military supplies fly over French territory." France has been very unhelpful with respect to the butcher of Iran, who has been now successfully eliminated. The USA will remember, is what President Trump says. It's all coming together. There's some of the background information. Now, in summary, this is what we're hearing from our allies in Europe. They're saying, we want the Americans to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but we're not going to allow the Americans to use our airspace or their own military bases in our countries to run logistics or any of that. They want us to do all the heavy lifting, but they're totally unwilling to help out. And well, President Trump, like I said, has had enough of it. Really, it's this never-ending series of betrayals from our allies in NATO that have this morning prompted President Trump to say this. Let's take a look. As he said, all of those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the US. We have plenty. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Go to the Strait and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil, is what he says. President Donald J. Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, Trump just absolutely blasted our allies in NATO, saying, you know what? It's your oil. Go and get it. We did all the heavy lifting. You don't want to help us. You're going to box us out. Good luck. Good luck. Because now you're on your own. Now, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth just this morning chimed in on this entire conversation as it pertains to NATO. Let's take a listen to what he had to say just a couple hours ago.
And as far as NATO is concerned, that's a decision that will be left to the president. But I'll just say a lot has been laid bare. A lot has been shown to the world about what our allies would be willing to do for the United States of America when we undertake an effort of this scope on behalf of the free world. These are missiles that don't even range the United States of America. They range allies and others. And yet when we ask for additional assistance or simple access basing overflight, we get questions or roadblocks or hesitations. And the president's pointing out, you don't have much of an alliance if you have countries that are not willing to stand with you when you need them. He's simply pointing that out, and ultimately it'll be his decision of what that looks like after this is complete.
As we've said time and time again, President Trump has just recently tested the merits of our NATO allies, and all of them have failed. But now, folks, You are going to love this next part because check this out. Less than 12 hours after President Trump threatened to walk away from the Hormuz and let the Europeans deal with it, go get your own oil, he says. Check this out. The president of Iran, Pezeshkian, now says he's willing to end the war. Breaking news. Iran's President Pezeshkian says Iran is ready to end the war with the U.S., but wants some guarantees, security guarantees that we're not going to blow him up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a coincidence. Trump has just called the Iranian regime's Hormuzian bluff, if you will allow me to call it that, stripping the Iranian regime of the one bit of leverage they still had left. Game over. Now, Pezeshkian wants guarantees that we won't keep bombing him or Iran. Then this thing is over. They're willing to meet all of our demands because President Trump was willing to walk away from the table. All right, good luck with the Hormuz. By doing so, ripping, like I said, that leverage that the Iranian regime had away. Beyond the Hormuz, they've got nothing. Now, folks, here's what I want to do real quick. I want to focus back on NATO itself here for a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, for a very long time, NATO has been used by the United States as a means with which to keep our European allies weak, dependent, and under control. Simply put, for decades, the United States has maintained Europe as what was effectively a vassal state. To this degree, NATO, as far as I'm concerned, hear me out, has actually been a good arrangement for the United States. I'm personally in favor of maintaining a weak, dependent Europe that can barely stick up for itself. I think that's good for America and American interests. However, as they say, beggars can't be choosers. And now, as of late, the beggars, the European NATO member nations, have not only been attempting to choose, but in fact, they've been attempting to make demands of us. They've become so accustomed to the benefits of this arrangement here we have, it's called NATO, that they've taken this arrangement for granted and forgotten what their own obligations and commitments truly are. Many of them, for years now, have refused to pay their agreed upon 2% of GDP contribution into the NATO budget. Many of you know that. Many of them have leveraged predatory trade deals and tariffs against the United States. Many of them have even begun to cozy up with China, the CCP. And now, as if all of that wasn't enough, many of our NATO allies are refusing to allow the United States operational access over European airspace or our own military bases in Europe that are there to protect them. NATO, in theory, is a mutually beneficial relationship, so long as all parties involved recognize their place in the hierarchy. Europe is a protectorate of the United States. They have been for 80 years. They don't get to renege on all of their commitments and then start making demands of us when we have been subsidizing their existence for almost a century. Perhaps President Trump needs to remind them that they are, in fact, subordinate to the United States of America and the interests of us Americans, not the other way around. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's our NATO update. Like I said just a moment ago, I would suspect that once this whole dynamic with Iran has concluded, that this NATO alliance is going to be restructured. I think there's going to be a lot of change coming up in the very near horizon. I've seen some reports speculating that NATO is going to become sort of a pay-for-play dynamic. The more you pay, the more you play, the more you get. Countries like Spain, España, who really doesn't contribute jack squat to this agreement, not only are they now not paying their 5% that they negotiated, but they've never even paid their 2%. So a country like Spain that takes and never gives anything, they might be cut out altogether. They might get nothing out of this. Who knows? But there's going to be a big time restructuring going forward. And I would suspect it takes place in the next 2 or 2.5 years in the second half of the Trump term, once this Iran thing has settled down. Time will tell. We'll see. But I think there's going to be some big changes. ladies and gentlemen, at this point, if you would be so kind to allow me, what I would love to do is take a look at some super chats and Rumble rants. Like I said, though, ladies and gentlemen, today I am making a big request. I know I'm being annoying. I hate to do this. I hate to be annoying. Folks, we launched our new Facebook page today, the Morse Report, for those of you that use Facebook. Please do me a favor. Make sure to follow that page. If you're on Facebook, you can find it, Morse Report. I've got a link for it in Rumble and on YouTube. We've got the X page also. We got 10,000 followers on X, the Morse Report page on X, 24/7 breaking news updates all day, every single day. That's the place to be. Let's put on the hat. Let's go ahead and do some super chats. Do you mind? Let's do some super chats, folks. What day of the week is it today? I don't even know. I'm living in a bubble. Tuesday, the 31st is the final day of March. Tomorrow's April 1st, folks. Should I come out here with pink hair and talk about how I wish I voted for Kamala Harris? I should have a nose ring and pink hair and say, oh man, I wish I voted for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is so transphobic. Donald Trump is so transphobic. He's erasing trans people. Oh, that's what, man. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. That would be funny though. That would be funny. I don't know. Maybe we'll do something tomorrow. It's April 1st. Okay. Anyway, let's get to these super chats. Thank you all for being here today. I really do appreciate it. Donald Trump is such a transphobe. Okay, I'm pulling up the super chats. Where are these things? And okay, I think I've got them here. Oh yeah, I've got them. Ladies and gentlemen, the very first super chat of the day here is from a lovely woman. Her name is Elizabeth F. Thank you very much. She says, thank you, Elizabeth. First one of the day. She says, I'm so exhausted by the libs. Me too. Of course, Justice Jackson is off her head with her liberal insanity. SMH, thanks, Matt. I'm sure, Elizabeth, you have seen that clip. It's a couple years old now, where she said that she could not draw a distinction between a man and a woman, a boy and a girl. She has no idea. What's the difference between the two? I don't know. Nobody knows. Have you seen that? She is a DEI libtard. Can I show you something? This morning on Twitter, I said something very rude. Permission to be a little bit rude here. Maybe this is beyond the pale. I don't know. Maybe I went too far. I said, and I quote, fat DEI retard. But I mean, am I wrong? Am I really wrong? Are we wrong about this? No, I think we're spot on the nose. She is, it is, she is. We all know what it is. We all know what she is. Unfortunately, there's not really a good way to get rid of her. Once somebody's on the court, like they're kind of on the court, maybe we can hold out some hope. We can overturn her appointment because it was auto pen related. I don't know. I'm not holding my breath. We might have to deal with this fat DEI retard for another 40 years. I don't know. I hope not. I hope not. Sorry, that was rude. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. No, thank you very much. Legendary Racing says, correction, it's Justice Ketanji. I'm not a biologist. How would I know what a woman is, Jackson? Yeah, okay, there's the exact quote. Thank you. That's what I was talking about. Thank you very much. Christopher Gable says, it seems like the only reason blue states are blue states is because of illegal immigrants. Yeah, I mean, you begin to understand their entire strategy, right? They know, these Democrat politicians, they know that none of their policies, none of their radically progressive policies are actually appealing to like legitimate American citizens like you and me. They said, okay, well, rather than moderate our radically progressive policies and try to move back to the center, we're just going to open up the border and flood the country with tens of millions of immigrants from the third world who are going to be effectively like modern day slaves. They're going to vote for us no matter what because they are beholden to us. We're the ones dangling their welfare over their head. So of course they're going to vote for us progressives. That's their plan. The plan is not to win over Americans and get Americans to vote for them. Their plan is just to replace Americans with beholden, effectively enslaved immigrants from the third world. That's their entire political modus operandi. That's their plan. And the sooner we all realize it, the better. We all know this is the case. Now we have a super chat from Jared Lang. Thank you, sir. He says, do you think Missile City workers are okay? I would speculate that they are probably not doing so well. That would be my speculation. But, everybody working in the Iranian Missile City, you have to assume that they themselves are members of the IRGC, probably, so you can't exactly feel too bad about it, Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that, sir. Warren Larson, he says, we need to increase denaturalization to 200 per hour or a day instead of monthly. Sorry, off topic. Don't deport me. Okay, move along. Okay, move along. Scamper along. No, listen, the more the better. These things take time. Here's what I am concerned with, okay? Obviously, we all want more denaturalizations. We want more deportations. What I'm concerned with is I'm not one of these people that's going to say, oh my gosh, President Trump hasn't solved every single problem in 14 months. Screw President Trump. I'm voting for the Democrats. Ridiculous. You're absurd. No. Listen, what matters to me is that we are, for the first time, like ever, we are back on the right track. And what's more, we are now moving down that right track at an ever increasing pace. The rate at which denaturalizations are happening is going up. It's happening faster and faster. The rate at which deportations are happening, more and more and more that's happening. All of this, we've got good momentum now. It would be a shame to toss it aside and have a petulant toddler tantrum meltdown and say, oh, well, Donald Trump hasn't fixed every single issue in 14 months, so I'm done. Absurd. We're on a good trajectory. For the first time ever, we are now on a good trajectory. We've got good momentum. Keep it going. I want more of what we have. I want more faster. Thank you very much. Hexorcist, one of my favorites. He says, China and Russia giving them intelligence at this point is probably just telling Iran's leadership how screwed they are. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. This is the intelligence. Hey, guys, you might want to move into the deeper bunker because the bunker you're currently hiding out in, it's going to get blown up. Maybe that's the intelligence. Thank you, Hex. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Tammy Jansen, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that, ma'am. Thank you very much. Another good one from Sherry Zilak. Sherry Zilak says, $25. She says, F NATO. They have shown zero support or respect to the U.S. Imagine if we ever need help, we need to get out of NATO. I kind of said this in my breakdown. I would much prefer to just, rather than, you guys might get mad at me. You might get mad at me. Rather than scrapping NATO altogether, I would prefer that we can just get NATO back in line. I would prefer the best case outcome, in my humble opinion, is that we can get these European NATO member nations back in line and remind them exactly what their place is and what this dynamic is. But if we can't do that, if we can't get them back in line, then you know what? Goodbye. Okay. So we'll see. It's gonna be very curious the way things go here. We'll see. Thank you very much, Sherry. I appreciate that, Mrs. Zilak. I appreciate that. What a cool last name. Dragon Slayer says, Strait of America, F you, it's ours now. The Strait of American Donald Trump, freedom and liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dragon Slayer. Jen Extra says, leave NATO. Of course, listen, of course. I think we all understand. I know where it's coming from. I know why people feel that way. I get it. Rise of Middle America, he says, NATO doesn't want to help us. What happens if a missile just so happens to get through and create catastrophic damage? How fast do you think they'll let us use the bases then? Keep in mind, on 4 occasions, here's a good example of what you're talking about. On 4 occasions over the last 4 weeks, the Iranian regime has fired ballistic missiles at Turkey. Every single time it was a NATO base in eastern Turkey that intercepted those Iranian ballistic missiles fired at Turkey. It'd be a real shame if that NATO base weren't there. Imagine if that NATO base with U.S. military equipment and missile interception capacities, imagine if that NATO base was not there. Turkey would have been hit not once, but 4 times by Iranian ballistic missiles. You're right about that. Most certainly they have taken us for granted. That is absolutely the case. 100%. Now I'm taking a look. I want to make sure I haven't missed any super chats here. Okay, there's a couple more. Kevin Stankiewicz, thank you, sir. He says, should President Trump cut a deal with President Putin of Russia, sell out Ukraine, pull out of NATO and Western Europe, get Nord Stream and join OPEC? Those are some pretty big steps. I think let's go slow. We'll see how all of this unfolds. I think we've got the right guy in the White House to figure out what exactly is going on here. You know what I'm telling you? My super chat page just crashed on me. I'm trying to reload this. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Sinful 1966 says, thanks for the day. I got to fill my cup from the library. Hold on. I got to fill my cup from the library tears in your Twitch chat. If you guys are looking for some fun right now, listen, over the last couple of days, we have added Twitch into the mix. We're live on Twitch right now. We've got YouTube. We've got 13,000 viewers on YouTube, 4,000 viewers on Rumble, about 1,000 viewers on Twitch. If you ever want to see some libtard tears, total libtard meltdown, go and take a look at the Twitch chat. The Twitch chat. Twitch is a notoriously, infamously liberal, anti-Trump, anti-MAGA website. If you want to go see what those people are saying, go take a look at the Twitch chat. It's gonna blow your mind. It's just nonstop meltdown theatrics. So no, I see what you're talking about. Thank you very much. Dominic Grady, thank you. Says, hi Matt, happy to be with you today. Keep up the great work, brother. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much, and happy Tuesday afternoon. Jim Barbado, likewise. Thank you, Mr. Barbado. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Harley Girl says, this war is over. Now show Argos the pup. You know what? Because I'm in a good mood. You are going to see my pajama pants. I'm wearing pajama pants, admittedly, but because I'm in a good mood, okay, I'll bring the dog in. If you really want, I'll bring the dog in real quick. Very rarely does the dog make an appearance, but I'll bring the dog in. Give me one moment here. I'll go get him. Okay, final super chat of the day. All right. Can you sit? Sit. Good boy. Good boy. There you go. That's a good boy. You want to come here? Come here. There you go. Mwah. Mwah. Okay. It's Pajama Pant Tuesday. What do you want me to say? There he is. He's a good boy. Can you come up here? Well, now he's banging around the entire desk. He's going to knock over the damn desk. He's 75 pounds. He's not even a year old yet. Come on. This is real special for him. Normally, I don't allow him in the office. You want that? There you go. Right there. There you go. Right there. Okay. There you go. Normally, he's not allowed in the office. This is a work zone. He's a very good boy. He's a very big boy. Thank you, Harley Girl. I appreciate that a lot. Okay, I want to make sure I'm not missing any last-minute super chats that might have popped up here. Well, hello there, sir. Hello there, good boy. I'm telling you, there's something wrong with YouTube today. These super chats are not pulling up like they normally do. Scuba Diva says, I live at the base in Sicily. The U.S. takes care of everything there and employs a ton of Italians who need to pull out at least for a little bit. Yeah, there's all of these secondary impacts, the economic, local community economic impact, positive benefit, right? Yeah, you're right. And Scuba Diva, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. See me LN, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, Scuba Diva, thank you. And you know what? The final big super chat of the day here. It's Andrew Penning. Is $100. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. He says, you are better at just covering the news than pandering to super chats. We got to do the super chats. Listen, imagine if I just let everybody throw super chats in and then I just said, all right, folks, that's the show. Goodbye. Just ignored you guys. We got to do it both. We got to do it all. And I like to do it. I really appreciate the support. I really do. We have to acknowledge the super chat, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, though. I appreciate that. Some people, their favorite part of the show is the super chat part. They sit there, man, I wish he was done talking about the news. I just wanted to do the super chats already. Get to it. Everybody's got their preference. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. Now, with that said, look at that, Doc. Good Lord. Hello, good boy. Now, with that said, that is going to be a wrap up for today's broadcast. We have my special guest here today, my helper here. Everyone, thank you all very much for tuning in on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch. Make sure to follow, like it all. Thank you very much. I will have some videos for you folks this afternoon on YouTube and on Rumble. And then I'll see you again for another live show tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. So thank you, everyone. God bless. Thank you all very much for being here today. Big day, good day, a lot of good news. I'll see you folks tomorrow for another live show. Until then, God bless, stay safe, and thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you very much.